Hello, it's Michelle at thedareToBeYou.com. Today's inspirational interview is with Vednita Carter of Breaking Free in St. Paul, Minnesota. She is absolutely inspirational and touched my heart with the words that she shared with me today. I'm so excited to share this interview with you. I hope you enjoy it. The first portion will be her explaining Breaking Free and what they're doing right here in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. The second portion will give you more information and details into the scope of change that she is truly creating. So, can you please share what Breaking Free is?
Breaking Free is a program that provides services for women and girls who have been involved in sex trafficking or prostitution. We look at both of them as two of the same thing. And so we help women and girls to get out of that lifestyle by providing a number of different services to help them to do that.
Can you go into a few of the services for me?
Well, some of the services that we provide, what we call the foundation of our services, is our housing. And what we have is permanent housing as well as transitional housing. And we know that a woman can't get out of the life of prostitution unless she has a place to lay her head. And so when Breaking Free was established back in 1996, that was one of the goals, was to try to get housing for women as quickly as we could. Otherwise, it just became kind of like a revolving door. You know, we were just putting a Band-Aid on the problem, and the individual was still kind of having to go back to the only thing she knew to do. Without having any housing, she didn't have a lot of options, is what I'm saying. So a woman can stay in our permanent housing. It's an apartment building that we master lease. She can stay there for as long as she needs. We don't put any kind of a deadline on her. She doesn't have to be out in a year, 2 years, what have you. When she's ready, our transitional housing ladies can stay there for up to 2 years. And we call our transitional housing is for what we really consider women who have been in the life for at least 5 years. Probably the more hardcore women. And I say that because the majority of women that reside in our transitional housing program are women who have been in the life for at least 5 years, probably started as little girls. And they really do want to get out of the life, but they don't know how to. They don't know what to do. They don't know what is normal life. How do you really live a normal life outside of sexual abuse? Because basically that is what prostitution is. You know, it's the worst part of sexual abuse that anyone could ever imagine. It happens over and over to individuals, day after day. And so we let women stay in transitional for 2 years. They're provided with, they're assigned a case manager, and we really do try to teach them the basics of life. You know, many of the ladies in our transitional housing program have not ever had their own apartment. A lot of them have unfortunately lost their children to child protection services. I mean, it's not about rehabilitating, it's about habilitating individuals. And so what we hope is that after a woman has stayed in our transitional for 2 years, then she is able to move on to permanent housing. She knows what to expect. She's gotten over some of the hurdles that have been barriers for her, are causing her to not be able to move forward. So that's what our housing program is all about. And one of the other programs that we have is called Sisters of Survival. And what that is, it's a 14-week group where women come to Breaking Free, and they really understand, they learn about the dynamics of prostitution. It's so easy sometimes for people to just assume that she knows what she got into, she knows what this is all about. But really she doesn't. I mean, she's been just as brainwashed and lied to as all of society. And what I mean by that is when we look at movies like Pretty Woman or Indecent Proposal, those movies are not the truth of what happens in the life of prostitution. Men don't pay women $1 million to sleep with them. That's a reality. You know, we know that. And women don't meet these knights in shining armor like Richard Gere on Pretty Woman. That doesn't happen. That's a rare occasion. And so what we try to do is we really do try to talk to women about the realities. A lot of them don't even realize the average age of entry into prostitution in our country is between 12 and 14 years old. And many of them started at 14, 15, 16 years old. So what we do is we put all the pieces together. How does sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, and prostitution, how do they line up together? What happens when you're sexually abused as a child? What goes on in your head? What makes you possibly run away? And not only that, because some women get involved in the life at 20, 30 years old. Why? They say, I'm doing this just to make ends meet at the end of the month. Or they're doing it because they believe that, hey, it's just like sleeping with my boyfriend or my husband. And in reality, they don't understand. It's a whole different lifestyle. It's much different than that. And we talk about, how did it make you feel? What did you think? You know what I mean? What's happened in your life? How do you think you can get out of this life? What do you need to do? You know, so we do go through a whole lot of different topics in the 14 weeks. And we also have a life skills education center, and what that is we partner with a community program that helps women to get their GEDs. They do some job skills kind of training, help write resumes. And like I say, if you've been involved in the life since you were a child, chances are you probably don't have your GED. And that's something that you really need to have it in order to get a job in the real world. One of the good things about partnering with this community program is that they will provide mentors, and they work with you individually, so you don't have to feel embarrassed that, yeah, I'm 33 and don't have my GED and maybe, you know, can't read too well, you know, or what have you, because they'll work with you individually and you don't have anything to be ashamed of. We believe that prostitution isn't something that she did. It's something that's been done to her. You know, so we don't call women that come in here prostitutes. We call them prostituted women, because they don't have a lot of choices. Once you get in that life, you can't call all the shots like people are made to believe that you can in prostitution. It doesn't really work like that. So women also are given case management services or advocacy services if they need someone to intervene on their behalf with child protection or probation or just whatever their situation might be. That's something that we do for them. And they can just come in here and they can just sit, talk, wherever they're at. And so that's kind of some of the services in a nutshell that Breaking Free provides. But we also have another program called Offenders Prostitution Program, better known as the John School. Men who are arrested for soliciting women in prostitution are also court-ordered to our program. And what happens is they come once a month, that's one Saturday a month, and they're here for 8 hours. And basically what they hear is a series of different lectures from many different individuals, from the courts, from the police, from the medical field, people talking about HIV/AIDS. But the core piece of that day is when the women tell their stories. Because many of the men also have in their mind that this is a free choice. She made this choice. She should know what she's getting into. And when the women begin to talk about how they got involved in the life, you can literally hear a pin drop. I mean, they're thinking about this. One of the things we do on this day is we ask them to do pre and post tests. And what that is, we're just trying to find out one thing, a little bit about them, how they feel about this issue. Some of the questions are, would it be all right if your wife or your daughter were involved in the life of prostitution? And actually, you'd be kind of surprised to hear their answers, because there's been a couple that said, I don't think it would be that bad. You know, and we do this because we really do want to figure out who are these individuals that are purchasing women. Who are they? What do they do? And it's interesting because many of them make a lot of money. We've had doctors, lawyers, politicians. We've had a little bit of everybody come through our John School here. And we also ask them, well, how many times have you purchased women? And some will say, so many times I can't even count. And these are our neighbors. These are the guys that go home to their wives, give them a kiss, You know what I mean? Love on the kids. And then sneak out late at night or early in the morning before work and buy women. And the city county attorney's office always asks them, how many of you are married? And you'd be surprised how many hands go up in the room. Just about all of them. And then he'll say, now how many of you told your wives you were coming here today, that you were court ordered to this program for purchasing women? Their hands all go down. And I'll say, what did you tell your wife? Where did you tell her you were going today? And they'll say, fishing. You know, I had to work overtime. I mean, you would just be kind of, I'm not shocked anymore, but some of the lies that that they tell their wives. But the sad thing is when they get a disease and they don't tell their wives. And then they go home and they take that disease home and then she gets it. That's a sad thing right there. So, Breaking Free does a lot of trainings and we do street outreach. We have a lot of different programs because it takes a lot of different creative programs to really be able to reach this population and to help women and to help girls understand. It's not your fault. I mean, you deserve a better shake in life. And so basically that is really why we're here, for that reason, and that's what we do.
What is with the John School? Have you seen guys come back again?
Well, what happens is men who come to our John School have only one chance to come. It's usually their first offense. If they get arrested a second time, at least we're told, if they get arrested a second time, that they have to go to jail and they have to serve their time. A lot of the women don't get some of the breaks that they get in that way. But we're told from law enforcement, now we've been doing the John School for about 7-8 years, and over that time they say that there's been less than 10 rearrests. But what goes on in my mind, because I know that you don't just change a behavior. It's like I use heroin every day and I just wake up and say I'm not going to use it today. We know it doesn't happen like that. Our behavior does not change that quickly. So in my mind I'm thinking, well, are they going to Hennepin? Are they going to Anoka County or Woodbury? Or how can we find out? Because there's no way. If they tell us that they bought women so many times they can't even count, they're not just going to come to the school, in my opinion, the bulk of them, one time, and say, this really changed my mind. It did give them something to think about, though. They'll know. They know differently what they knew than what they knew when they first came. So